my friends, I hope you are having a wonderful day. I know I am because Tears of the Kingdom releases in just 1 week. It doesn't even feel real to say that, but yeah, I just checked and it's true. We are so close to release and I absolutely cannot wait. So, in the meantime, I wanted to break down some of my biggest hopes for the game, things I like to see, and after that gameplay reveal, an amazing final trailer we got. I've had lots of ideas and thoughts about how I'd like the game to be. I have not watched any of the gameplay demo videos out there because I'm trying to go into Tears of the Kingdom as blind as possible, now that I've watched every trailer released by Nintendo up to this point. So if you're like me and you want to stay relatively spoiler free, I will not be referencing anything that has come out since the final trailer we got on April 13th. This will also be a good reference point when the game does come out to look back at this video and say which parts we got, which ones we didn't, and which ones I shouldn't have wished for in the first place. And so with that all out of the way, I guess there's nothing left to do but get started. And I think the best place to get started is the Overworld. Back when we still referred to Tears of the Kingdom as Breath of the Wild 2, we learned that the Zelda team would be using the same overworld. A lot of people seem to be put off by this. I even heard people suggest that they should just quickly make a new Hyrule again to keep it fresh for experienced players. But with the addition of the Sky Islands and the vast underground, I don't hear too much complaining about the reused map anymore. Plus, it's not like the landscape on the surface is the exact same. Giant chunks of land have been ripped into the sky, and giant chunks of Sky Island have crashed into the surface. I think these changes alone will be enough to keep the overworld fresh, but for me, the reused map is more of an opportunity to show some of that change over time that only an asset reusing sequel can. I'm looking forward to seeing the areas that were once ruins full of monsters and guardians in Breath of the Wild being rebuilt and restored. We could get some new towns and NPCs and maybe even multiple quests like Terrytown to further the rebuilding effort. Building Terrytown was one of the most satisfying quests in the game because it was this light spot shining through a world plagued by chaos and darkness. I want to ride around Hyrule and get a sense that things are starting to make a turn for the better, that everything Link did in Breath of the Wild made a difference, and Hyrule is starting to pick itself back up again. Even if I know that Ganon is coming back, and things are about to get even worse for the people of Hyrule than they may have been, I still want to see that Hyrule is at least in the process of being rebuilt. We did see some very much still ruins in some of the trailers, but I'm hoping that just means Hyrule is still a work in progress and we can help further those efforts. We have seen campsites with tents and building materials in the final trailer, so I feel pretty confident about this one. I don't think I'm alone in saying that I would love to see the return of proper dungeons in Tears of the Kingdom. The running theory is that the goal of the game will be for Link to find these 7 tiers, hopefully located at the end of a true return to form dungeon. The Divine Beasts in Breath of the Wild were really cool and I enjoyed them for what they were. On paper, they seemed to check all the boxes, an elaborate multi-room puzzle box that Link needs to solve to get to the boss waiting inside, but something was just missing. Maybe it was the atmosphere or the quality of the puzzles themselves, I'm not really sure. It was cool working with a member of each race to actually access the beast, and once inside, a lot of the focus was on the environmental puzzles that involved rotating or moving different parts of the beast to solve the handful of puzzles inside until you unlock the boss fight with the blights. The interior of each Divine Beast are identical. Mechanically, they were all different, obviously, but they lacked that unique atmosphere that could set them apart from each other. Then you have the 120 mini dungeons in the form of shrines, which had their own wide spectrum of quality. Some of the best shrines I think were better than the Divine Beasts, to be honest. I don't think anyone could say that Breath of the Wild was lacking in time spent doing dungeon-y things, but I think a more focused set of 7 dungeons would make a lot of people happy. I don't really see how narratively they could do shrines again, especially in Tears of the Kingdom, like as if the Sheikah could say, oh yeah, we made all those tests for the hero, and we also decided to make 100 more that weren't relevant before, but they are now. I don't know, I'm sure if they had to, they can make it work, but I hope that's not what the team has been doing. What I think would be really cool is if there were some dungeons and maybe even just some overworld puzzles that connected the sky islands to the ground below and the underground. Similarly to how some of the puzzles work between the light and dark world in A Link to the Past, I would love to complete a set of tasks on the ground that perfectly set me up to solve an overarching puzzle on the sky islands. And I'm not sure why, but during the gameplay reveal, when demonstrating the Ascend ability, Alnuma said that if you end up in a cage, you know what to do, and my mind immediately jumped to Wind Waker's Forsaken Fortress. When you get thrown into the jail cell by the moblins and you have to escape using the barrels, I don't know, maybe we will have some stealth segments of the game where you get caught and you get thrown in a cage or something. Not sure if that has anything to do with dungeons, but I just wanted to mention it anyways. Speaking of the new Ascend ability, we've seen a handful of new abilities that we will be using to reverse time, fuse weapons and items, and even build all sorts of vehicles and machines. I feel like these new abilities will act as this game's dungeon items. Like instead of having a dungeon designed around acquiring and using the hookshot, we get a dungeon focused on the use of fuse, ultra hand, or maybe some other ability named after an old Nintendo toy we haven't seen yet, like the hip flip or spaceball. The tier Zelda is holding in the final trailer shows the symbol for Ascend, which could mean that there are 7 of these new abilities. I feel like the evidence for this is pretty strong, even though I would love to see the return of the hookshot, but that might have to wait for the next Zelda game. Who knows? We saw in the gameplay trailer that you will not only be crafting cars and flying machines, but also weapons and gear. We see Link draw his bow and attach a key side that makes his arrow hone in on whatever is being shot towards. I really hope that this system flows nicely and is not overly cumbersome. Basically, I hope that in addition to being able to craft on the fly as you draw your bow, you are also able to craft things ahead of time and not need to individually select the items to attach to arrows. I want to be able to stockpile meat arrows for whenever the situation might call for them and not have to make each one as I draw my bow. But the overall concept of using the items you acquire to make yourself stronger weapons is such an important improvement on the weapon systems from Breath of the Wild. I would also like to see the durability system tweaked slightly. Overall, I enjoyed the weapon breaking system, even though it was hard for me to get over using my strong items when I needed to, even though they would soon break. It encourages experimentation with weapons you may have never tried before. I know a lot of people had problems with the system, and I think if you made things last just a little bit longer, it wouldn't feel like they're being wasted. I know that weapons will still break, but I want to be able to get through just a few more enemies without having to cycle through all the swords in my inventory. Then the whole vehicle crafting mechanic is too huge of a concept for me to even put any expectations on. We have seen that it will have its limitations with the batteries, but I can't even imagine all the insane things we are about to see people build. From cars and flying machines to these insane battle mechs, this is definitely going to be one of the biggest shakeups to the Breath of the Wild formula. I'm honestly shocked that it took me until watching that final trailer to remember the music of Zelda and how big of a role it's played in the series as a whole. We went from a series that gave us music like this, this, and this, to this. Music that was less melodic and acted more as an accent to the landscape. The closer you get to life in this world, the more emphasized the music becomes. As well as the further you venture into the unknown you travel, there is hardly any music at all. I can appreciate what they were going for, but I'm just a sucker for a good Zelda soundtrack. Hearing this sweeping arrangement in the new trailer weaving in past Zelda songs, oh, it gives me chills. I would just like to see the music be taken up a notch and have more melodies that give the game that unique sense of character. I know the final Breath of the Wild trailer had some better music, but I just got a different feeling from this trailer. There was going to be even more to it this time. None of this is to say that the music in Breath of the Wild is bad or that there are no standout tracks. Rito Village, Korok Forest, and Mifa's song would sure have something to say about that. I just want more tunes that I catch myself humming outside of playing the game. The story that we got in Breath of the Wild worked for what that game set out to accomplish. The team was forging a new, non linear path, and the memories were a really smart way to allow the player agency in when and how much of the story they would see. If the player felt invested, they could track down the locations of the memories using the photographs in the Sheikah slate, or if they didn't care, they could ignore it all without any intrusion. On paper, this system looks great, but in practice, there just wasn't enough there for most players who were interested in seeing a compelling story to grab onto. I think we would all appreciate just a little bit more effort in the story, just a little bit more meat on those bones. I want to see a return to the epic storytelling of Twilight Princess and Majora's Mask. I want to experience a narrative that we directly progress and play a part of. Similar to the shrines, narratively, it wouldn't make much sense to do another memory-based story system again, unless there was some kind of time manipulation mechanic going on. But as far as the story in Tears of the Kingdom goes, I don't have any specific hopes. With Ganon coming back and diving into the mysterious Zonai, there is definitely a lot of potential for an amazing Zelda story. The Zonai have been the single biggest mystery in Breath of the Wild for so long. I mean, the word Zonai only appears once in the entire game. They are a perfect catalyst to center a sequel around. And right now, the Zelda team is perfectly set up for a slam dunk, and all they need to do is deliver. Deliver on that epic Zelda experience that a lot of people were burnt on with Breath of the Wild. And there we have it. I'm sure I could come up with more little things I'd like to see in the game, but those are at least all the major ones. With just 1 week left to wait, I think I'm going to spend this time reflecting on Breath of the Wild and the new era of Nintendo it brought about alongside the Switch. This feels like a real turning point for Nintendo. Tears of the Kingdom's release may end up marking the beginning of the end of this current Switch era. I think looking back at this generation down the road, being bookended kinda, by two incredible Zelda games, we will see how lucky we were to experience this time. Breath of the Wild and by extension Tears of the Kingdom are synonymous with this generation of Nintendo. Had Breath of the Wild and the Switch not succeeded, who knows if Nintendo would even still be a thing at this point. All we need to do now is enjoy the present and be thankful that we are about to experience what is looking to be one of the best games ever made. There are a lot of high hopes and dreams riding on this game, but if Breath of the Wild is anything to go by, I think we're in good hands. See you guys on Hyrule Field.